Beneath the ruins of a forgotten city, where flickering lights barely hold back the dark, Kale discovers a creature unlike anything he's ever seen, blue-skinned, silent, and crouched in the filth, clutching a glowing artifact. She isn't human, not anymore, but in her eyes burns something ancient, something powerful. As their paths collide in the underground maze, Kale realizes the world he knew is a lie, and she may hold the key to what comes next. In a place where survival means sacrifice, will he betray her trust, or join her in awakening what sleeps below? Long ago, this city pulsed with life, light, noise, and hope. But that was before the world ended. Now, it lies like a rotting carcass beneath the surface of a dead planet. This is Sector Z, a forgotten underground sprawl, where only darkness, damp air, and the faint hum of dying machines remain. After the collapse, the surface world became uninhabitable. Radiation, poisoned skies, and centuries of war mutated those who remained above. They became something else. Feral, monstrous, no longer human. But deep beneath the ground, some survived. Clinging to broken machines and failing power grids, they built their own version of civilization. But even that is crumbling now. Kale is one of the last scavengers, solitary, hardened, and skilled in navigating the ghost tunnels of the old world. Every day he descends deeper into the forgotten layers of Sector Z, searching for scraps. Broken tech, lost data cores, ancient batteries, anything of value. Most days, he finds only rust and rot. But today is different. His wrist scanner lights up with a faint signal, steady, rhythmic. It's a bioenergy pulse. Something alive, or something powered by life. That hasn't happened in years. Kale narrows his eyes and heads in the direction of the pulse, weaving through collapsed tunnels and flickering corridor lights. Posters on the wall, torn and yellowed with age, display diagrams of human anatomy, along with warning symbols in a language no one speaks anymore. Then he sees it. A figure, still, low to the ground. She's crouched, like an animal in the dark. He draws his sidearm instinctively, but doesn't raise it. There's something strange about her. She looks human, but not quite. Her skin glows faintly, pale blue, almost translucent under the flickering lights. Her body is lean, her limbs long and strong, marked with strange patterns, tattoos, scars, or something older. Her hair is tangled and matted, falling over her face in wild waves. She wears only scraps of fur and cords, woven into something tribal, something ancient. In her hands, she holds a glowing object, a life core. Small, golden, pulsating with energy. Kale's breath catches. A life core, he whispers. Long thought to be a myth. Said to power entire systems, heal corrupted data, even bring machines back to life. The girl, creature, whatever she is, lifts her head. Their eyes meet. There is no fear in hers. No rage. Only caution and something else. Intelligence. A question. Who are you? Predator or prey? Kale slowly raises his hands, showing he means no harm. He kneels, gently placing his bag on the floor. She watches him closely, muscles tensed. Her grip on the core tightens. But she doesn't run. Not yet. Then Kale notices it. On the walls, the pulse is stronger. The core is reacting not just to him, but to this place. Could this tunnel be part of an ancient system? A power grid? A vault? And her? Could she be a guardian? Before he can ask, she moves. In one fluid motion, she turns and vanishes into the dark, slipping through a narrow side tunnel. Kale hesitates only a moment. Then he straps his gear tighter, activates a backup light, and follows her into the shadows. He doesn't know what she is. He doesn't know where she's going. But the signal is growing stronger, and something deep inside tells him, this isn't salvage. This is a beginning. Kale pushed through the tight corridor, his shoulders brushing against cold, damp walls covered in moss and strange markings. The tunnel twisted unnaturally, like it wasn't designed by human hands. His light flickered, then steadied. Every few steps, he glanced at his wrist scanner. The bioenergy signal was growing stronger. She was close. The girl, creature, guardian, whatever she was, moved fast. Too fast for a barefoot being in rags. Kale had lost visual contact minutes ago, but her presence was undeniable. The silence around him wasn't empty. It was watchful. He could feel her, just beyond the shadows, observing him. Then the tunnel opened up into a wide, circular chamber. The ceiling arched high above, partially collapsed, revealing tangled roots breaking through concrete. A weak blue light pulsed from the far wall, where ancient machines hummed quietly, barely alive, like they were waiting for something. And there she was. She stood upright now, at the far end of the chamber, her back to him. The life core rested on a stone pedestal before her, placed with reverence. Kale stopped several feet away. "You live here?" he asked, voice echoing in the hollow space. No answer. She didn't even turn. He tried again. "What is this place?" Slowly, she turned her head. Not all the way, just enough to acknowledge him. Her expression unreadable, calm, cautious. Then she raised her hand and gestured toward the pedestal. Kale stepped closer, slowly. He could feel the warmth of the core as he approached. It wasn't just a power source. It was alive. He could hear it faintly, like a heartbeat echoing in his bones. He looked around. The walls were covered in faded symbols and ancient glyphs. Some matched the warnings he'd seen earlier in the subway tunnels. Others looked older, deeper, as if carved before the collapse, before electricity. There were paintings, too, figures like her, standing around similar pedestals, defending them from human-like invaders. A story. This was a temple, or a vault. "She's a protector," Kale murmured to himself. She stepped back, letting him come closer to the pedestal. Her movements were deliberate, neither inviting nor threatening, like she was waiting to see what choice he would make. Kale reached toward the core, hesitated, then pulled back. "I don't want it," he said. "I just want to understand." At that, she tilted her head slightly. A flicker of recognition crossed her face. And then she spoke. It wasn't English. It wasn't any language Kale knew. But her voice was soft, melodic, and ancient. She gestured again, this time to the machines behind the pedestal. They were large, dormant, covered in vines and dust. Some had wires reaching up into the walls. Others had decayed, their cores shattered. Kale stepped closer and placed his hand on one of them. Cold metal, unresponsive. "Is this a reactor?" he asked aloud. "A life support system? Or something else?" She watched him, silently. Then she walked to a panel embedded in the wall, wiped away layers of grime, and revealed a screen, dark and cracked. She touched the screen, and the core pulsed. For a brief second, the screen flickered to life, showing a glowing schematic. Kale recognized only fragments, maps, human DNA sequences, symbols indicating cryogenic systems. It wasn't just a vault. It was a preservation chamber. Kale turned to her, stunned. "There are people down here?" She didn't answer, but she didn't deny it either. That's when Kale understood. These life cores weren't just power sources. They were keys, organic, ancient, and necessary to maintain whatever was locked away beneath the city. This girl, this being, had been guarding this one for who knows how long. Alone, watching, waiting, and now he had found her. Suddenly, a distant clang echoed through the tunnel behind him. Footsteps, boots, more than one. Kale's face tensed. Someone else had tracked the signal. He turned to her. "We have to go. They'll take it. They'll kill you." She didn't move. Instead, she picked up the core again, more carefully this time, and handed it to him. Kale hesitated, then took it gently. In that moment, something passed between them. Not a word, not a thought, but an understanding. This wasn't about survival anymore. It was about preserving something bigger. Together, they vanished into the shadows, silent, swift, and hunted. The tunnels twisted around them like veins beneath a dying giant. Kale followed her through the dark, the life core glowing faintly in his hands. Every few steps, he looked over his shoulder, half expecting to see shadows moving where they shouldn't. But all he heard was silence. Thick, heavy silence that pressed on his ears like a deep-sea current. The girl moved with eerie grace. She knew these passages well. Where to step, where to duck, how to vanish into the gloom without a sound. Her presence was quiet, not timid, but watchful, intentional. Every action seemed guided by purpose. They reached a narrow crawlspace between two broken conduits. She stopped, looked back, and gestured for him to follow. Kale hesitated, then dropped to his knees and slid in behind her. The metallic surface scraped against his jacket. It smelled like rust and damp earth. On the other side was a chamber unlike anything Kale had seen in the ruins. The walls here weren't concrete or steel. They were covered in a smooth, living material, softly pulsating with bioluminescent veins. The light was calming, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Ancient machinery lined the room, but it wasn't dead, it breathed. And in the center stood a pedestal identical to the one before. Kale understood. This wasn't a one-off. There were many. These were nodes, scattered through the underground city, built around something ancient and biological, something humans had forgotten or chosen to forget. The girl stood beside him now. Her expression was unreadable, but there was a quiet expectation in her eyes. Kale lifted the life core. "Do you want me to place it here?" She nodded slowly. He stepped forward, placing the glowing orb into the hollow of the pedestal. A soft hum spread through the chamber. The walls brightened, responding. A deep, harmonic tone echoed from somewhere far below. Systems were waking. Suddenly, a stream of holographic data burst from the pedestal. Images, schematics, layers of code. Kale watched in awe as ancient plans scrolled by. Maps of the city, outlines of bioreactors, and, most shocking of all, people in stasis. Not just a few, thousands, frozen beneath the surface, hidden from the apocalypse. This place wasn't just a shelter. It was a seed vault for humanity. And the girl, she wasn't an anomaly. She was a descendant of those left behind, adapted to protect this place at all costs. Her body, her silence, her instincts, they were the result of generations born in darkness, molded by forgotten technology and survival-driven evolution. Kale turned to her. "You've been waiting for someone like me, haven't you?" She didn't answer, but her gaze softened. An unspoken yes. Kale's wrist scanner buzzed. Multiple heat signatures, closing fast. "They found us," he muttered. "Mercs. Tech scavengers. If they get to this." She stepped forward and extended her hand, not to take the core back, but to mark him. With 2 fingers, she drew a symbol on his forehead using a paste from a pouch at her waist. It was cool, and it tingled against his skin. A mark of trust, of pact. He understood. This wasn't just about protecting this chamber. It was about protecting them all. "Show me where the rest are," he said. "I'll help you guard them." She studied him for a moment, as if weighing his soul. Then, without a word, she turned and led him deeper into the network. As they moved, Kale glanced back at the pedestal. The core pulsed brighter now, the system fully awake. Screens lit up across the chamber, displaying diagnostics, countdowns, and biological vitals. The sleepers were alive, but they wouldn't be for long if the scavengers found them. Kale knew how they operated. They wouldn't care about the significance of this place. They'd tear it apart for parts, sell the core to the highest bidder, leave nothing but ash behind. He gritted his teeth. Not this time. For once, he had found something worth protecting. Something pure, untouched by greed. As he followed the girl into the abyss, he felt the weight of the pact between them settle on his shoulders. Not spoken, not signed, but forged in the quiet understanding of shared purpose. He wasn't alone anymore, and neither was she. They moved swiftly through the tunnels, the girl leading Kale with quiet urgency. The further they went, the older the world became. The steel turned to stone, the lights to glowing veins in the walls, and the silence to a low, humming rhythm, like the underground itself had a pulse. Kale's mind raced. Thousands of lives suspended in hidden chambers. The core had only activated one node, but there were more, dozens, maybe hundreds. If they could be restored, humanity might have a chance. Not the twisted, scavenging husk of the world above, but something new, something clean. But there wasn't time to dream. A sharp buzz vibrated on his wrist scanner. Multiple signals. Close. He stopped. Checked the reading. 3-4, he muttered. Armed. Surface tech. They're hunting. She looked back at him. Her eyes narrowed. Kale didn't know how she understood the scanner's meaning, but she did. He motioned for silence, crouching near a ventilation grate. Voices echoed down the passage. Signals strong. Biocores here. Told you the bastard found something. Let's not waste time. If the girl's with him, we shoot first. The words sliced into Kale like a blade. He recognized that voice. Ravik, a former scavenger from Kale's old crew. Ruthless, opportunistic, and not one to share treasure. Kale's fists clenched. He remembered the last time they'd met. A disagreement over a power cell had nearly ended in blood. Ravik didn't forget betrayal, and Kale had walked away with what he claimed. Now, Ravik was here, and he wouldn't leave empty-handed. The girl placed a hand on Kale's arm. Her grip was firm, asking, not telling. What do we do now? Kale exhaled. We can't outrun them in open tunnels, but we can lead them somewhere they don't want to go. He pointed down a rusted side corridor. That way. Sector 19. Collapsed data wing. High radiation spikes. They won't risk too deep a chase. She hesitated, then nodded. They moved fast, weaving through corridors as boots clanged closer behind them. Kale tossed a decoy beacon into a side chamber to buy time. The sound of running feet passed them, chasing the false trail. 10 minutes later, they reached Sector 19. It was dead quiet here. The walls were cracked, machines slumped like corpses. Old hazard signs blinked faintly in red. Good, Kale said. They'll hesitate. But Ravik wasn't stupid. It didn't take long before his voice echoed through the hollow sector. Kale, you down here playing hero? Kale froze. The girl crouched behind an old console, core held tight in her arms. Come on, man, Ravik taunted. You really think this place matters? It's just scrap. Old world garbage. That thing you're protecting? You don't even know what she is. Kale stepped forward, just enough to let his voice carry. She's a guardian, and she's not alone anymore. There was silence for a beat, then a laugh. You always were a fool for lost causes, Ravik replied. Step aside. Give me the core, and I'll let you walk. Kale didn't move. You'll destroy everything, he said. There are thousands of people down here. They're still alive. I know, Ravik said coldly. That's why they're valuable. Then came the shot. A crack of plasma fire ripped through the chamber. Kale dove behind a pillar, the girl ducking low. The shot missed, but just barely. You don't want a war, Kale. Ravik shouted, but I'll give you one if I have to. Kale pulled his own weapon, a modified arc pistol, and returned fire. Sparks exploded across the ceiling. The echo was deafening. The girl didn't flinch. She moved around the edge, fast, low, and silent. Kale watched as she disappeared into the smoke. Seconds later, a scream. One of Ravik's men dropped a clean slice across his neck. Another turned and fired blindly. But it was too late. She moved like a ghost. Kale took the opening. He rushed forward, knocking the gun from Ravik's hand. They fought, grappling, fists flying, boots scraping against metal. Kale took a punch to the ribs, staggered, then drove his elbow into Ravik's gut. "You don't get to decide what survives," Kale growled. He grabbed the man's jacket, shoved him back into a collapsing console. Sparks flew. Ravik lay groaning, half-conscious. The girl appeared beside Kale again, silent as always. She looked at him, waiting. "No," Kale said. "Let him live. Let him go back and tell the others this place isn't theirs." She nodded once. Together, they disappeared into the shadows again, carrying the core, and with it, the last fragile thread of humanity's future. For hours, they moved in silence, deeper into the veins of the city, far beyond the reach of Ravik's men and the world above. The tunnels no longer felt dead. With every active life core they passed, a low vibration filled the air, subtle, like the hum of a distant song rising from the earth. They were waking up, not just machines, something older, something human. Kale and the girl, Ilya, he had finally learned her name, entered a chamber unlike any other they had seen. It was vast, almost cathedral-like, but with no signs of worship. Instead, there were pods, hundreds of them, tall, clear chambers arranged in circular rings, each holding a still, pale figure suspended in glowing liquid. Cryogenic stasis. Ilya approached the central console. She placed her hand, pale blue against matte black metal, on the panel. The life core she had carried for so long pulsed in response. Kale stood beside her. The screen before them came to life. Vitals, stable. Power, 64% and rising. Sleepers, 2,136. Status, preservation complete. Wake sequence, standby. Kale stared at the readout, stunned. It was all real. These people had been sleeping for generations. The final gamble of a collapsing civilization. While the world tore itself apart above, someone had built this haven, and someone had chosen her kind to guard it. Ilya looked up at him. No words. She didn't need them. Kale nodded. "Let's wake them." She activated the sequence. The hum intensified. Lights along the walls brightened to a warm, golden glow. The liquid in the pods began to drain. Mechanical arms moved into position, scanning, reviving. One by one, eyelids fluttered open. The first sleeper gasped for air. Then another. And another. Kale stepped back, watching the rebirth of humanity with something between awe and dread. They were alive, but the world they'd known no longer existed. And the one that remained was fragile, brutal, and poisoned with greed. They would need guidance. They would need protectors. And they would need each other. A man emerged from one of the pods, coughing, his eyes wide with confusion. Where are we?" Kale stepped forward. "You're safe. You've been asleep for a long time, but it's not over." The man blinked, trying to process. Ilya moved through the crowd gently, touching hands, helping them sit up, guiding them like she'd been preparing for this her whole life. Some flinched at her appearance, her glowing skin, her tribal markings, but when she offered her hand, they took it. Slowly, the fear faded. She wasn't a monster. She was a bridge. Above them, systems flickered to life that hadn't worked in decades. Automated agriculture centers, oxygen generators, and water purification systems began their slow, groaning startup routines. This place wasn't just a vault. It was a new beginning. Kale wandered to the far wall, where faded murals lined the surface. He brushed off dust to reveal an ancient carving. A human reaching out to a being not entirely human, two hands touching. Unity. It had always been the plan. Not domination, not isolation, but coexistence. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the chamber. Kale's hand went to his weapon, but Ilya stayed calm. She walked to a nearby terminal and checked the diagnostics. Not an attack. A signal. From another node. Another vault. Somewhere deeper, perhaps farther, across the ruins. There were more. More like her. More like them. And the awakening had only just begun. Kale turned to her. "We're not done, are we?" She shook her head. Not even close. Outside, somewhere far above, the first crack of sunlight broke through a thick layer of ash-covered clouds. It touched the crumbling skyline with golden fingers. And in the soil, buried beneath years of decay and ruin, a green sprout pushed its way upward. The surface was healing. Slowly, painfully, but it was healing. And deep below, in a chamber once ruled by silence and shadow, humanity was breathing again. Not the same humanity that had destroyed the world, but something new, born in darkness, guided by memory, and protected by those who had never stopped believing in the light.